Wherever there's an episodic series, you can bet two men will talk to you. AJ Talon and Owen Finch give their thoughts on Owen and AJ Talks.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Owen and AJ Talks. I'm Owen Finch, and I'm here with
AJ Talon, and this is our episode 1 review of the Ben 10 cartoon. It was created by Man of Action and originally aired on Cartoon Network.
We've been talking about doing this for years. Let's just get this out of the way now. Every video we're gonna make, like from now going forward, is gonna be shows we've talked about doing for years, but just because of schedules and shit, we didn't get to them. So
for me, it was high school / college. That's how long it's been.
Yeah. So, well, I feel like Ben 10 we didn't talk about though until. Like, it wasn't, it was like college.
It was something I always wanted to do, but it was more so on the back burner because, unlike other shows like Danny Phantom and Avatar, which we both grew up watching, Ben 10 was more so my show, and it was more so something you caught like while hanging out with me.
Yeah, so,
but it was something you've known like a fair bit about. So when we were talking about reviewing shows, we were like, oh, hey, that'd be a fun one because you're familiar, but not like you haven't seen the whole show.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm very familiar with it.
As you're gonna see too, I think you're surprised like how much I like do and don't know about the show type of thing, and like
right, like you remember very weird details, which is very fun. You know, it'll be fun to like have you get the full context of everything.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because like we were just talking off screen too. The stuff that like you just think I know because you've watched the show for so long. It's just basic knowledge. Like you had to ask me today. We'll get to that like part of it, like a certain specific thing that like it's pretty well known. But like you had to ask me about it.
Like, I just take it for granted. But then I'm like, oh yeah, was that clear for you?
Yeah. So, which is gonna be interesting because when we cover Phineas and Ferb and stuff like that, like I'm just gonna.
It'll be the reverse, where I've only seen a little bit of it, and you were a big fan of it growing up.
By the way, I know this is by the way just shows how off the cuff we are. We're still to Danny. Do you want to include Phineas and Ferb? Because that's, I mean, even though it's not like a superhero thing, that's like very scientific and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can include like references to other shows that were airing around this time.
Yeah. But yeah, let's just get right into the episode. We'll just get this out of the way now. We have very limited amount of time to do this, so you are gonna get some behind the scenes. But if you watch Avatar, we're not gonna be going as in detail because one, he's only seen the full show and I haven't. I've seen bits and pieces of it, so we won't be going into as much detail. We say that, and then we're gonna
right because like with Avatar, we went into like we're like, oh hey, this is like a parallel to what happens like in the season finale. Yeah. Whereas Owen doesn't know some stuff that happens, so we can't really go into like super detail.
And then we also have a limited amount of time to do this too, also, just because like so, and I didn't watch the episode.
Yeah, but,
I didn't watch the episode till this morning, so I didn't have a lot of time to do research. So it just shows you, I had like what, a week to like over 3 weeks to watch this, and I didn't watch it till today. That's very
yeah, but it's fine because we usually save a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff for the season reviews. So
yeah.
But anyway, let's get into it. Ben 10 was created by Man of Action, and it aired in December 27th, 2005. And it starts off with a reference to a Star Wars A New Hope, which I think is really cool because, they're both like sci-fi stories.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, if you're making a sci-fi story, you're probably going to reference Star Wars at some point.
Yeah. We should mention, by the way, too.
He's never seen Star Wars.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was a reference until I looked it up type of thing, but...
Yeah, I didn't know mention, but I know now.
Let's mention, though, too, you said the date of the episode, December 27th, 2005. That's a really weird date for the debut of, like, a new show type of thing, the premiere, just because, like, well, one, it takes place in the summer. I always assumed that it came out during the summertime just because it takes place, like, in the summer and all that type of stuff. And then, also, it's just kind of weird that it comes out like 3 days before Christmas because no one really watches TV really before Christmas type of thing. It's kind of weird for a new show to come out like before Christmas. I assume what happened, I'm just guessing here. I know we said we weren't going to do behind the scenes stuff, but just because it's kind of natural to bring it up, I have a feeling they had to air this episode again, like after Christmas, like after New Year's time, because I don't know what it did in the ratings, because it's really tough to tell what it did in the ratings. I know this is a kids show, but I imagine it was probably tough to get people to watch the show because it came out during Christmas. A bunch of stuff happens, as you know, at Christmas. I know it's more of an adult thing, but I remember as a kid, like, your schedule's really weird because you have all these parties you have to go to and all that type of stuff. Like, I just
especially
wonder...
for a family as big as us, we had like a lot of Christmas parties. It is interesting because when we talked about Avatar, I like said I vividly remember the first time seeing Avatar when it first aired.
Mm-hmm.
For Ben, I didn't catch the first episode the first time around. I was already a fan of the show, and then when I was with you at our grandfather's campground, I saw the first episode airing. And I'm like, oh, cool! I didn't know there was like a first episode.
And I think now we know why, because it came out around Christmas time. I think like they had you at Ben Y type of thing because
also I was like 5, so just like
yeah, true.
And it's funny, and when we're also doing Danny Phantom, I don't remember when I started watching Danny Phantom. Like it's just like a show that like I feel like I've always like known about,
I feel like too that's gonna be kind of cool when we do these shows as like shows that we watch as kids, because that behind this is I don't know the first SpongeBob episode I watched because I just remember watching SpongeBob type of thing. I was already watching.
Same for me. So I just figured I'd mention that because I mentioned it with Avatar, and like these are shows we grew up with. Grew up with. And it's funny you said you worried about the ratings for Ben 10 because Ben 10 was basically Cartoon Network's SpongeBob. Like it was their flagship show for a really long time.
Oh yeah, I knew that. I just figured like I wonder what the first episode was like since it aired.
I thought you meant overall. I'm like, considering they got like 4 sequel shows, I think they're doing just fine.
I was just mainly talking about
toys. Ben 10 was a fucking toy machine.
Yeah, I was just talking more so about like the first episode, like what was it? Yeah. But anyhow, continue talking about what happens in the first
first scene's a reference to A New Hope, where a very large evil ship is chasing a smaller good guy ship. We can assume we don't actually see what's going on the good guy ship right now. And it's everything's not very mysterious at first. We just see this evil squid guy chasing down the smaller ship. We don't know what he's after. He's after something called the Omnitrix, which we find out later what that is. And he talks about how once he has it, nothing will get in his way. And then it cuts to a classroom on Earth with a small 10-year-old boy who shall be our main character for the rest of the show, and that is Ben Kirby Tennyson.
Yep. It cuts to Ben 10, and I like too because it's a comedy bit because one, it's this 10-year-old kid, but it's what they did with the comedy bit that made it funny. He's just doing like typical like 10-year-old stuff that what they do when they're being rebels and all that type of stuff. He throws like a paper airplane like at his teacher. So I did like how it was a comedy bit because it was a 10-year-old, but it wasn't just because like because it's not like he's like this bright 10-year-old either that like knows everything. He's basically like doesn't want to go to school. The typical like
a normal kid.
Yeah, he's a normal kid pretty much.
It's the last day of school for the summer, so he's like watching the clock like, come on.
Yeah, so I do like that what they did with the joke type of thing. I feel like too we should just get this out of the way just because the art style here I think looks pretty good for the first episode. They threw a lot into it. And it looks good for 2005. I think we're gonna say this a lot when it comes to new stuff. But for 2005, this looks like really good, like really well drawn and all that type of stuff. We should say this though. You could definitely tell who they put a lot of focus into. Like if you didn't watch any trailers or anything like that, you would definitely know who the main characters are gonna be. Because the typical background people,
background people, right? Yeah. That's kind of like every show. I don't think that's anything you can fault this show for.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I'm just saying like we'll see like a typical background person. Like they're not. You can just tell in the background people they're not drawn very. I should say not drawn very well, but they're not drawn as well as like the main characters type.
Of course. But actually, a lot of people give this show credit compared to other Ben 10 shows. Now, I'm not gonna throw shade at the other shows because like I'm a big fan of like Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, but this show gets a lot of credit for like being a lot more detailed than it probably should have been.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, like even though you said like the back row characters are pretty generic, there aren't really like repeats like as much as you would expect.
Yeah. Because I remember in Avatar...
they don't just like copy paste people, is what I'm saying. You know?
Yeah, because I remember Avatar was that way, like on the village that we just talked about. Like, other than like the grandmother and that one little girl, I think everyone was drawn like the same pretty much for the most part. So
yeah. Oh, and in case I didn't mention it, Vilgax was voiced by Steve Bloom. Very famous voice actor. He's done Wolverine, Spike from Cowboy Bebop. He's also in this episode later on as Heat Blast.
Yeah. Really good voice acting here. He sounded like since this is a reference, he did sound like a little bit like Darth Vader, like type of thing. I thought, anyways, just not as much.
Yeah, like the very deep, gravelly voice. Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, I really liked the villain.
I forgot how skinny he was because of course we see later on he's injured, and when he comes back with like enhancements, he's like, it's like day 1 versus at the gym versus day like 500 at the gym.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think
so. I'm glad they updated the design because he wasn't very intimidating here, honestly.
And I think it does very well what a season premiere, like the first scene of a season premiere should do, like not just set up the plot very well, but also like give you like a hook to want to keep watching, like not just the show, but the first episode, because that first scene can really either make people want to watch or drive people away. So you have to hit that like right. So I always
I agree. I'm glad they didn't start off like with Ben, our main character, in the classroom. I'm glad they started off in space with Vilgax in the chase.
And then like it kind of ties into like the story of what it's gonna be, type of thing. Like and yeah, I think we talked about this. We should just get this out of the way. We don't know he's Vilgax, all that type of stuff. Like we just know like he's going for like the Omnitrix and all that type of stuff. But
yeah, we don't know who he is exactly, what his deal is.
Yeah, but what's cool about this is I knew Vilgax was a thing. I didn't realize he showed up the first episode. I thought like he kind of showed up like later on. I didn't realize he was in the first episode. I thought like he would kind of came in later on as like a big villain, kind of like with Danny Phantom and like Vlad. Like Vlad doesn't show up for like a few episodes type of thing. He's not even in the first episode. I think it's kind of cool that Vilgax kind of shows up in the first episode, kind of like they basically set up that storyline.
Very much implies like he's going to be like the looming threat in the background,
which I think is cool.
Yeah, so it's more so of like the Fire Lord and Avatar rather than Vlad and Danny.
Yeah, I would say so.
Like he's that threat in the background that they're gonna have to fight eventually.
Yeah. I think I made it like. I think I did the Danny reference just because, like I said, we were gonna do that, but also too because Vlad's really the main villain of Danny. Like that's the main enemy of Danny type of thing. So.
Oh yeah, I figured we're gonna reference Danny Phantom because they both aired around the same time, and like they're both very like comic book inspired.
Yeah, we should talk about this. I wonder. And then we'll get right back into the episode. I wonder, like, if it would, like, competing with each other type of thing. Not obviously, like, trying to outdo each other type of thing, but, like, I wonder if, like, just because it was the same style of show, they were both airing at the same time, I wonder if there was ever, like, a competition back and forth between, like...
Yeah, that'd be interesting, especially because they're on different networks. Danny was on Nickelodeon and Ben was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, which is weird because Danny comes out first, actually. That comes out in 2004. I wonder if this was, like, a Cartoon Network's, like, response to, like, Danny Phantom type of thing. So.
Yeah, Cartoon Network was looking for an action show for boys at the time. So, Danny Phantom definitely could have been, like, a reason for that.
Yeah, so. Yeah, let's continue to talk about the show, the episode.
Yep, Ben Tennyson is voiced by Tara Strong. She's done, Raven and Teen Titans, Timmy Turner and Fairly Odd Parents.
Yep.
I'm surprised you didn't say anything about that. I figured you would have been surprised.
Also too, because I looked up the stuff before, like we talked and all that type of stuff. So
okay, gotcha.
But I was surprised, that like, and it's kind of cool because she was working. I mean, we talked about that competition. She was working with Butch Hartman at the same time on a different show too. So
yeah. So that's how that worked.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of funny. Like you would think, like I guess I don't know if it would happen nowadays. You would think Nickelodeon would like be like. You're not going to work for our competition type of thing. So it is kind of surprised that happened.
I think with voice actors, it's like they're like independent. Like, you can't, unless they have specifically a contract, you can't make them.
So that's pretty, I think that's pretty cool. I think we before we should talk about the theme song of Ben 10, just because I always remember it and stuff, and it's
the
like,
theme song might be my favorite cartoon theme song. Honestly, like it's up there.
yeah, I would probably say so.
Definitely
Like,
top 5.
yeah, because I think my favorite might be Danny. Well, it's tough. I feel like SpongeBob's a biased one, just because that's a very famous one, obviously.
SpongeBob is iconic, but like I don't know if it's my favorite. I wouldn't say it's my favorite.
Yeah, I would say it's it'd probably be up the top. It would be like the top 10 though, but I would probably say it's Danny. This might be it because I actually still remember this. Even though I didn't watch much of the show, I still remember this theme song like years later, type of thing. You know,
Yeah.
just because. Of
Oh, and when we get into the live action movie, oh my god, the rock cover they did of this song is so good.
And then Jimmy Neutron was another good one, and then
yeah,
they just had
Spider-Man and Avengers cartoons had really good ones.
Yeah.
I think it does a good job of like Danny Phantom explaining the show.
Yeah, very good
While
job.
also being a catchy song.
Yeah, I do question if they should have waited an episode to do just because like it kind of gives away like that he gets. I know it kind
of like how Avatar waited on the normal intro.
Yeah, so I kind of wish they could have waited. I know like it was in the ads probably and everything like that, but I wish they waited an episode type of thing.
Yeah, like the whole marketing of the show was like, oh, this boy who can turn into 10 different aliens, you know. So.
But I wish they just waited like the next episode, just do it type of thing, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially because the intro like shows off the aliens.
Yeah, so it's weird, like
you already know everything he can turn into.
Yeah, so, I would have just done like no intro type of thing, just do the whole episode, obviously with the commercial breaks and stuff, and just continue type of thing, just because like, you know, I get they wanted to do a cold open, but it was just like really, it was just like really strange, like how they, you know. I remember the Cleveland show does that. Like, it basically gives away the first episode because it shows Cleveland. Like, the whole plot of the Cleveland show is Cleveland's trying to marry the wife that he marries for the whole show, and then they just give away that we don't even meet the characters because Cleveland leaves. I forget the.
Co-op.
Yeah, he leaves Quahog, and then like they do the intro. It's like you just gave away the whole episode type of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I never thought we would have referenced the fucking Cleveland show in a Ben 10 video.
I mean, because I don't have a problem with it as Ben 10 because you know everything that happens pretty much, but like, yeah. You know.
Yeah, and like, well, I guess it's not like a Danny situation where you start the show and he already has his powers, so the intro is like basically the pilot in a way.
Yeah. So I would say like, I wish they just waited like an episode, like.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. But anyway, Ben, is let out of school. The bell rings. He's on summer vacation, and the summer vacation is the whole plot of the show. Although on the way out, we see that these two bullies, JT and Cash, are bullying this other kid, trying to get his money.
Yeah.
They're very generic bullies in this episode, which is funny because they're generic bullies in this whole show, like the original show where Ben's 10. But like later shows when they're teenagers kind of try to give these two a little bit of depth. Not much. They're still kind of just like side background characters.
Yeah.
But it is funny like coming back to now when they're just a generic bully duo.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because later, like the later shows did like give them a bit of like depth.
Oh, that's pretty cool, So that's why you knew their names
right
away.
A lot of shows don't really do that with their bully characters, so I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, they would like. Now, is it implied? I mean, because you see them later. I think I think they're a little older than Ben, type of thing. Like, I don't think they're like 10. I think they're like 12, probably.
Like maybe a year older.
Yeah, I would say. I said
Ben's like implied to be very short for his age. Like Gwen calls him Pipsqueak.
That's true. Yeah.
But also, like girls are typically taller than guys at that age.
Yeah.
I mean, not in my case. I'm a bit of a special case.
Yeah. I think I don't think I fall into that category. So,
I mean, you're fairly tall.
Yeah, I'm just saying at that age, I don't think I was tall, type of thing. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Ben walks up to them and is hey, leave that guy alone. So clearly showing even before he got his powers that he's like, even though we saw in the classroom he's a bit of a troublemaker and like doesn't really pay attention. He is still like he has good qualities. He's like very heroic. He wants to help this kid.
Yeah, and I think that kind of they do a good job tying into that because that kind of ties into why like it's cool that he gets the Omnitrix because like that's why like he kind of messes around with it type of thing. So
Yeah, and like Cash says, or is it JT? I don't remember which one's which, but one of them says, what are you gonna do about it, Tennyson? And then Gwen says the same thing later on.
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
So very clearly, it's a callback. And then Ben tries to rush him, but then him and the kid that was getting bullied end up getting hung up on a tree by their underwear.
I do like that the kid that got bullied like kind of yelled at him because it actually makes sense.
Yeah, he's pissed off at Ben. He's like, yeah, they would have just taken my money and left. So thanks. Now they stole my money.
Yeah, so
and hung me up on my underwear.
So it kind of made sense that he was angry at him, type of thing, just because so. And yeah, I did like that Ben had like these heroic qualities, but he like couldn't back it up, type of thing. So that was pretty, that was pretty cool. So
yeah, and then we see, Grandpa Max pulls up in the RV, the Rust Bucket.
Yep,
that's actually what it's called, the Rust Bucket.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he does. I do remember him calling it that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey Ben, come on, we're burning daylight."
And he's still like hung up like. On the tree. Yeah, and like it's like Grandpa Max a little help here type of thing. Like I don't know what the hell that was pretty funny.
The next scene we see Ben is like walking into the RV. So let's just assume that the other kid got left there.
I guess he did, yeah. Or like Grandpa Max
he's there all summer. Ben goes back to school. He's like, "Oh my god, that kid's still up there."
Yeah, that'd been hilarious. But yeah, so Ben goes on. Yeah, continue.
I was gonna say, you thought that Ben wasn't looking forward to the summer trip at all, and then that was a small error on your part because he's actually looking forward to the trip. But then he sees who in the car or the RV?
He sees his cousin Gwen in the car. First appearance by Gwen.
She is voiced by. 1 second. You can keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
And then say Grandpa Max is while you're looking it up. But yeah, so. The reason I thought that Ben wasn't looking forward to the trip, because I remember a big plot point in the show is why he even gets the Omnitrix and stuff to begin with, is because like he was angry about being there. Typical 10-year-old stuff, like they don't love the camp type of thing. They kind of like to do their own things and all that type of stuff because they're entering like the preteen world and all that type of stuff. And they kind of want to just do their own things. This is kind of like when you get some individuality and all that type of stuff. So I actually kind of like the fact, that Ben was looking forward to the trip. It was just the fact that, Gwen was there and, instantly they're at each other's throats. They don't really get along. It's typical, like, 10-year-old stuff where, like, they just kind of bicker and all that type of stuff. Because obviously, as you see, they do work together.
You mentioned that they're cousins, right?
I did mention they're cousins, yeah.
Okay. And by the way, sorry, before you keep going, Gwen is voiced by Megan Smith. And Grandpa Max is voiced by Paul Eiding.
Yep. And they do a good job of establishing Gwen's character. I feel like originally they don't establish it obviously big. She's not completely a background character, but this episode is more about establishing Ben, with the Omnitrix.
Right, which makes sense. Grandpa and Gwen kind of take a backseat just because there's a lot to get done in the first episode.
Yeah, but still,
establishing Ben and like the Omnitrix, I think, were the smart things to focus on.
But they still do, we see like she's very organized because like had this trip not happened, she'd like color coordinated like her schedule so that way she didn't do the same things a couple of times. So she's very organized and
Gwen's very smart, organized, and we see later on because she bashes a robot with a shovel. She's like more athletic than Ben.
Yep, and then
so Ben's more of like the reckless, experimental one.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this some more later, but at the moment, anyways, I would say Mac is more so the background character type of thing. Like, he's just kind of like the adult, kind of looking out.
He quite literally is the adult in the room.
Yeah, so.
He kind of tries to keep these two from killing each other.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, it establishes their dynamic. I've never been a big fan of Gwen and Ben, like, bickering.
Yeah.
Like later on in the show, typically my like more liked episodes are the ones where they're not like at each other's throats, And the ones I end up like disliking are the ones where they're just like fighting the whole episode over something stupid.
Yeah, I feel like I remember I talked about that in the Ben 10 like guessing game type of thing. Like I like that they got away from that as they got older, which makes sense. Obviously, you're not gonna bicker as much as they got older, but it made the shows easier to watch type of thing. So
yeah, I definitely liked it more like when they were friendly with each other compared to the original show where they're.
I feel like in this episode it was pretty well balanced. Like they bicker, but they also like look out for each other, which we'll talk about type of thing.
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was pretty annoying, but as the episode went on, it was better.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going on this camping trip, but they're not happy about it. Now that they have to be with each other, type of thing. And they don't really say. Do they ever say where they're going on this camping trip, or are they just traveling, type of thing? Because I know they're
just traveling across the country. Okay. We don't know what state they're from.
Yeah,
it's never said. So if you pay attention to in the episodes in order, the order of the states they go to are so bizarre.
Yeah, because I mean the next
in one episode they'll be on the East Coast, and then the next they'll be on the West Coast, and the next episode they're back on the East Coast. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's weird.
They kind of just travel to whatever state they need to be in. For the episode.
I do think it's funny that they Grandpa Max says all right, it's gonna be a long summer, which is kind of funny, obviously, just because like the summer actually does last really long, just because of how many like years and seasons it took to get it done, type of thing. Like,
yeah, it's like 4 seasons for this one summer. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, they're traveling across the country. Grandpa Max basically wants them to live like the camp lifestyle, kind of do it traditionally, type of thing. So like. He's making them eat like roast foods, like there's like these worms.
This is the funny thing. So I mentioned I won't go into like big spoilers for later on in the show, but you already know a bit about Grandpa Max, so I can say this.
Yeah.
This is the first hint that Grandpa Max like has more to him, because he like shows them this like really gross, like worm, dinner.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, it's considered a delicacy some places. So this was the first like this isn't really a hint if you don't know, but like going back.
Okay.
This episode, it's more like Grandpa Max has been all around the galaxy.
Yeah.
And he's just like picked up the habit of eating really weird shit.
Okay. I knew the stuff anyways, but I didn't realize this was meant to be the first hint type of thing. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that does make sense.
This is a running joke like throughout the show that Grandpa Max makes them eat like really weird stuff.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of cool because this is kind of like the first time Ben and Gwen like work together. Like they're trying to ration foods pretty much, so they don't have to eat this weird shit and all that type of stuff.
I do like that because it shows they don't actually like hate each other. They're just like kids and they fight.
Yeah, and eventually, Ben and Gwen are just kind of doing their own thing. Like Ben's playing a video game, on
her computer.
Yeah.
And poor Max, he's trying to be like, hey guys, let's make s'mores and tell scary stories.
Yeah, I feel like too Ben definitely would have been into it too if it was just like them there type of thing. So,
yeah.
But eventually, I think Gwen just kind of bickers with Ben. She kind of goes not a bit too far, but enough to like annoy Ben type of thing. So he just kind of walks off, pissed. And I think. This is the next scene.
I wondered because Grandpa Max says like earlier in the episode we're going to the campground.
Yeah.
And now they're at the campground, but like later on in the episode, like there's a big robot that attacks like the main camp, like where everyone is.
Yeah.
So I always wondered like why are they like far off from everyone?
Yeah, that's odd.
They're like in the woods, and then like there's like a main campground like not too far.
I mean, knowing Grandpa Max, he probably wanted to do like the old fashioned way type of thing, like traditional.
Yeah, it's in the woods, away from like everyone else. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, so just because like if you remember, like he's the one that wanted to like sit by the fire and tell like go like scary stories and stuff. So I think he wanted to do it the old fashioned way. I mean, we can talk about this because this becomes like a big thing too that happens in the show. It's a good thing they were there when this thing was going down, I mean, then again, they probably, if the Omnitrix had been there, they probably would have just taken it and, like, left. I don't think they would have attacked the town type of thing, but... I
can't really say this because you're not super familiar with this, but there's a reason the Omnitrix landed here.
Okay.
So, I won't really get into it, like, that's explained later on.
But, like, I will say this though, like say Ben and stuff wasn't there type of thing. So like,
Oh yeah, Ben getting separated from like Gwen and Max was pretty convenient.
yeah, but I'm saying like,
but I will like because like a lot of like we talked about in the Avatar episode, it's really convenient that Zuko happened to be at the South Pole
yeah,
when Aang woke up. This is an episode where like it's kind of like there's a reason why like the robots are there. The robots are after the Omnitrix, and there's a reason the Omnitrix lands there.
right.
So I give this episode a pass. It's they do it. It's explained. It makes sense.
Okay, there you go.
Not in this episode, but later on.
Yeah, I think we said like for later on episodes, like once Ben gets the Omnitrix, like what a coincidence they just happen to be in the area where villains are. All this villain stuff.
Yeah, the rest of the show, it's really weird. They're traveling across the country, and they happen to show up whenever there's like a supernatural thing happening.
Yeah, like I remember.
So, I'm saying this is like the one episode where it makes sense why all this shit's happening.
Okay, there you go. Because I remember like at least in Avatar, I remember like they mentioned. Like when that spirit animal was attacking the town or whatever. At least they mentioned like
they had been doing it for a while.
Yeah, so it wasn't like it would just happen to be like this one time type of thing. So
yeah, right. So I'm just saying like for Ben, like we'll give this episode its props because it's like one of the only times where it's like, it makes sense why Ben, Gwen, and Max are in the area.
Yeah. So then,
speaking of back up to space, do you want to explain that? Because
I'll let you explain because I'm getting texts as I'm doing this, so it's probably easier if you.
Oh, okay. Damn it, Owen, you're not paying attention.
I have to answer this text by the way because like it's like.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Hey, at least I don't hide it. By the way, so.
Yeah. So Vilgax is still attacking the small transport ship. And it's still after this thing called the Omnitrix. The audience isn't sure what that is yet. And he says, "Prepare to board." But very quickly we see the smaller ship fire a laser at Vilgax's ship, blowing up the bridge which he's on.
Yeah.
And we don't see what happened to him yet, but he's clearly out of commission for the moment. And then a small pod shoots down to Earth because this is happening above Earth.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Ben in the woods walking, and he's saying, "Oh man, this is going to be the worst summer vacation ever."
We should mention, by the way, there's a reason I mentioned this before with this alien attack and all that type of stuff. The ship blows up where the good guy ship is on, and there's a reason I say this. It's implied that they died. We don't know. There's a reason I'm saying that because if you watch our Ben 10 guessing game video, we won't mention it anymore until we have to mention it. Various characters from Ben 10 come back when it's implied that they died, but then they just come back anyways. So,
Ben's pretty infamous for that, just being like, "Oh, I thought you died. Yeah, I did. Anyway, let's not mention it."
I'll just mention like I'm gonna mention that a lot. Like if there's a big explosion or if someone totally died in that moment.
If you see them explode and like there's nothing left of them, they're probably still alive.
Yeah, because we'll be talking about that once we get to like Alien Force and other stuff like that. So
very appropriate. It's a very comic book inspired show, and that shit happens all the time in comic books. Someone's like turned to ash, they'll be back.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like this scene here.
It's just funny because Danny Phantom is in comic book inspired, but that doesn't really happen in that show.
I do kind of like, by the way, that they were willing to basically sacrifice themselves, like the good guys, so that way, like the bad guys couldn't get like the Omnitrix and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, they made sure Vilgax is like, they almost kill Vilgax. They almost kill the main villain of the show.
I know,
but in the first episode, so props to them.
Yeah,
and then they get the Omnitrix down to Earth.
Yeah, I will give this a pass because you could say, well, this isn't a good way to build up like your first like main villain. It did seem like that this has been going on like a while, by the way. Like it wasn't like it was just going on like one thing. Like it did seem like this was like going on even like before the first episode even like happened type of thing.
Yeah, well, because we see when the battle first began, they were around like Saturn's rings.
Yeah.
And now they're above Earth, so like clearly they've been like fighting for a while.
Yeah, so but yeah, good. I liked this scene here. It was really good. By the way, really good budget. By the way, too, for like your first cartoon episode, like this big explosion happens and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, like this big space battle. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I love the art style in Ben 10. It's very good.
Yeah, so then, Ben's walking around. He's upset that he has to spend his summer with Gwen, and then he sees what he thinks is a shooting star, but then we find out it's not a shooting star. It's obviously the. He finds out like
we see it's like falling, and then like it immediately like turns like unnaturally towards Ben.
yeah, and because you said this is the reason this happens, we have to give it a pass.
Yeah, well, because like it's very like implied, like okay, this is like it targets Ben.
Yeah. So
like it's falling in a completely different direction, and it just immediately like turns,
And then, Ben, sees this like asteroid or whatever he thinks it. He sees the Omnitrix fall, and
it like crashes like next to him, and he goes to take a look, and he thinks it's like some kind of satellite.
Yeah, and then he sees this watch. And which we now know is the Omnitrix. They never call. We should mention like Ben.
Oh yeah, that's interesting because we hear Vilgax call it the Omnitrix. Ben, Gwen, and Max don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They don't find out for a couple episodes, like so they just call it like the Watch.
Yeah. And the Omnitrix attaches himself to Ben, and he just starts like freaking out pretty much. I'm pretty sure they go to break here. Like it was meant to be a commercial break, like right after the Omnitrix attaches himself to him, which I thought was a really good way to time that. And obviously, we find out Ben can't get the Omnitrix off. Like he tries to get like a stick in the woods and like basically like rip it off type of thing, but he just can't get it off. And he just thinks it's weird that this this watch was attached to him and all that type of stuff. And he starts messing around with it, and he doesn't know how to necessarily use it, but he inadvertently, turns himself.
Because he presses a button, it like the middle circle pops up.
Yeah.
And then the like symbol changes to like a silhouette of a creature, and then Ben's like, "Cool," very very much like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Not taking the situation that seriously, and then he presses it down, and then we get our first alien transformation. And this is what I mean. I love the art style. Like seeing Ben like transform into Heat Blast is really cool. Like it looks, just like kind of like gross, and like you see him changing. Like his body.
Yeah,
like
it's
rocks
really
covering his body and like going all up around him.
Yeah, you can make the comparison to Danny Phantom here because you see this in Danny when he changes and stuff. If I had to say which one I like better, I actually like the Ben 10 one better because I remember Danny they do like a lot of camera cuts to like Danny change and like it's like all one single shot type of thing.
It's not much of a change. Like it's like kind of like a palette swap.
Yeah.
Whereas Ben, like he's like very like he's changing into a completely different thing.
Yeah, and he turns into Heat Blast. Now, obviously, they don't say the names of the aliens, really, except for one, obviously, in the show. In this first episode, anyways, but we know them as these aliens.
Ben's not really naming the aliens yet.
Yeah, but we know them as these aliens type of thing, so... Ben turns...
Oh, and I figured I'd mention it now. So, in the background of the transformation, there's, like, Kirby dogs, which is, like, an art style choice coined by Jack Kirby, famous comic book artist.
Yep.
And Ben's full name is Benjamin Kirby Tennyson.
Yeah, so that's pretty
So, very, again, a big comic book inspiration for the show.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome stuff. And then, Ben turns into Heat Blast. This is where, Vilgax's voice actor, comes back into the picture. So that's really cool. And obviously Ben's freaking out at first because he's on fire, and he doesn't realize, if you're on fire, he reacts like the exact way you would if you're on fire, trying to like roll around and put it out and all that type of stuff. But then he realizes that like it's not hurting him type of thing. It's actually he's
like made of fire. It's not on fire.
Yeah, and then he realizes that he can shoot like fireballs and all that type of stuff. So he kind of starts messing around as a 10-year-old would do and all that type of stuff. And he inadvertently causes a forest fire.
Yeah, and then he's like trying to like stomp on the fire, but like it's making the fire bigger because he's made of fire.
Yeah, and doing this, it kind of cuts back to Max and Gwen a lot. Like Max is worried about Ben and all that type of stuff, and then Max and Gwen notice the forest fire, and I like how like even though it's a joke, like Max is just like, oh, someone just causing a fire that shouldn't be doing it, and then he just realizes.
Yeah, some stupid camper is causing a fire, and then they both like look shocked and like, "Oh crap, Ben."
Yeah, so they grab fire.
I like how they both are like, "Oh yeah, no, Ben did it."
Yeah, I like that they know anyway. They just think it's him anyways, even though like they don't
know he turned into a fire alien. They just think he started a fire.
Yeah, which makes sense, as if you're a 10-year-old, like you probably get worried if they go in the woods and they actually started a forest fire type of thing. So
yeah.
So they grab fire extinguishers. They stop putting out the fire, and Gwen bumps into Ben. And obviously Gwen doesn't know that this is Ben at first. Gwen's kind of talking trash to her anyways, just because of the bickering type of thing.
Oh yeah, like she like freaks out, screams, and like smacks him with the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, and then he like...
And then Ben like lights her shoe on fire for a second.
Yeah, and then...
she realized, she like is about to attack him again, but then he's like, "Don't even think about it, freak."
Yeah, and
then when he insults her, that's when she realized that's Ben.
Yeah, so Ben like explains what happens, and then Grandpa Max comes up, and Gwen tells her that that's Ben and all that type of stuff. I actually forgot about this. I didn't realize Grandpa Max like even knew. Like I knew he knew obviously, but I didn't realize he knew like the first episode. I thought just it took a couple episodes for them to like tell them and all that.
Yeah, because that a lot of cartoons did do that. Like where like Danny Phantom again, good example, where the whole show his parents don't know that he's a superhero.
Yeah.
Or a ghost.
And then like
so Ben 10 was pretty unique like that, where the parent figure, the adult figure knows he's a superhero.
And I think the reason too, I remembered because I remember he only really uses the watch when Grandpa Max like isn't around and all that type of stuff. So I just thought like he didn't even know like Ben was had the Omnitrix. I thought it was like the end of the episode that like he found out or something like that too. So
yeah, but it makes sense because like they're gonna be in an RV together for the next summer, for the whole summer vacation. So that'd be kind of hard to hide it.
Yeah, which is weird because if you remember Danny, there's times where they're not. There's times they're on the road for like days. If you remember, like they go on like a road trip, and Danny's able to hide it, like these ghosts, like
yeah, but like that is only like 1 or 2 episodes, like compared to the whole show of Ben 10.
Yeah. So yeah, then basically Max has Ben start like another forest fire, so that way both forest fires will basically cancel each other out, and like it will just go out on its own type of thing.
Which is a real thing. Like fire will stuff itself out. Controlled fires. Like forest rangers will sometimes like start a fire to like control it, like if it's like really dry out.
Yeah.
Which as a kid I thought this was dumb as a kid. Like I was like fire doesn't do that. But like no, that is actually kind of a real thing.
Yeah. I first I kind of had a feeling it was a real thing, but then I was kind of suspicious when they didn't show it. I'm gonna guess they didn't show it because they blew all the budget on the.
Well, like I think a forest fire is less interesting than the robot fights that happen later. So I think it's just like a time thing.
Yeah, probably. And then
like the park ranger shows up and he's like confused. He's like, "What the fuck happened?"
Yeah. And then Max, Gwen, and Ben are sitting down. They're basically trying to figure out how to work this watch and all that type of stuff. Because that's the thing too. Ben just thinks he's gonna stay like heat blast forever. He doesn't even realize he's gonna like turn back until like. I mean, I knew like Ben knew this anyways, but it's just really weird to think of. Like Ben didn't even know he could turn into other aliens. It's kind of you gotta forget. Like Ben didn't even realize he was gonna like turn human. He just thought he was gonna stay that way forever and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like he has no idea how this works. He didn't even mean to transform it. Like he pressed a button and slapped it down.
Yeah.
And then he was a fire guy. He didn't know how any of this worked.
Now this is the hint that I first noticed. That like Grandpa Max knew more than he was letting on because Gwen
before that I like how Max wasn't mad at Ben. Like Ben was like being like, "Hey, I didn't know this would happen. I swear." And Max is like, "I believe you."
Yeah, I did like
he's not mad at Ben for the forest fire. He knows it was an accident.
Yeah, and I like that he's not mad that he picked up the watch and all that type of stuff, type of thing. Because like, I assume like as a 10-year-old kid, if a meteor crashes down, you're gonna like go and like see what's going on, type of thing. You're gonna be curious about it. Like,
yeah, and Ben explained like the watch like attached itself to him. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, so I did like that. Yeah, that he didn't get mad at him or anything like that. Gwen and Ben are calling Heat Blast a monster pretty much. And Grandpa Matt says, no, he's not a monster. He's clearly an alien. This is like the first thing I noticed, that Grandpa Max knew more than what he was letting on and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, because like Ben and Gwen look at him like surprised, and he's like, look at him. What else could he be?
Yeah. So
so this was like the first hint that Max knew more than he was letting on.
So yeah, they're trying to figure out how to work the Omnitrix. Ben's obviously worried because like he's not gonna be able to live a normal life really now because he thinks he's just gonna be Heat Blast forever. So
yeah, I like how the thing he's worried about is like, oh man, I have to play Little League in the fall. I can't do that if I'm made of fire.
Yeah, again, that's
like I like how like a 10-year-old he's worried about baseball rather than the rest of his life.
Yeah, which would make sense because like even though I remember that was like a tweak we had in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it still made sense for Aang's character. Like when he was about to leave. He was like, man, I haven't cleaned my room in over 100 years. I'm not looking forward to that again, type of thing. So it's all kind of funny.
So that, like, very kid-like.
Yeah. And then, the Omnitrix times out, and he turns back.
Yeah, it starts to beep red, and then, a big flash, and Ben's back to human.
Now, they did mention this is like a continuity error. Like, you know how they have, like, typical, like, little errors that they'll make? Like, they'll jump to a scene, and, like, they're wearing, like, a shirt, but, like, or like they're holding like pens or something, and then they're not holding the pens when you see them come back or everything like that. Apparently, there's a scene that they talked about where the error thing happens. I think it's when Ben turns into Wild Mutt that we see later on. Their watch isn't red, like you know how they cut to the scene like where it shows like the alien that they're fighting, then it cuts back and like the white watch is green. But we won't mention that type of stuff. Yeah. So like,
you're right. Because it's nothing's like super said in this episode. Like it's very much like kind of like figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, so I don't think
which makes sense because Ben is also the same way. He doesn't know how it works. He's like figuring it out.
Yeah, so I think
after it flashes red and Ben turns back to human, the watch colors turn from green to red. So that's a pretty clear way of showing that like it's like timed out. It's like out of battery or something.
Yeah, let's just talk about this. Well, first, that is like a pretty cool thing they added to it. Obviously, they upgrade this later on and all that type of stuff. But I do kind of like, because, it makes sense. You're first using the watch type of thing. So, like, I actually kind of like that. I actually like that they added that element to it and all that type of stuff. So,
yeah, there's like limitations. Like, Ben can't just be alien all the time.
Yeah.
Like, he'll time out. And, like, human.
But, yeah, let's talk about this. We find out, that there's a time limit, though, where this happens. It's supposed to be, like, 10 minutes. They do not stick to that time. And I didn't realize
at all.
And I didn't realize it was the very first episode where they didn't stick to that time because, Ben
was absolutely, he blasted more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, he started the forest fire. Ben and Gwen, Max and Gwen went after him. They canceled out the forest fire. They went back to the RV. They sat around the campfire to talk about all this shit.
Yeah.
And then, that happened over more than 10 minutes. That's like an hour.
Yeah. And then I remember when he turned into Wild Mutt, even though we don't see the whole thing, he was clearly, I think, Wild Mutt for only probably about 10 minutes, probably. So,
that was probably about 10 minutes.
So look at them already breaking their own rules. The first episode in, what a great start to your show, breaking your own rules.
And figured we'd say it now because if we mentioned the 10-minute time limit every episode, we'd be here all day.
Yeah, I feel like too we will. It's not like we're never gonna mention it again. I have a feeling we're probably gonna mention it like when it's absolute bullshit. But this is that time where it was absolute bullshit, actually. So,
although it's weird, I don't think they ever explicitly say it's 10 minutes, except like I told you before in the movie Race Against Time, it's explicitly said like 10-minute time limit.
Yeah.
In the show itself, I don't think it's ever said it's 10 minutes. It's just like it times out eventually.
Yeah. Now, question: does the because I know the live action and stuff is its own thing. Is the live action meant to be part of the Ben 10 like span of the universe, or no? Is it like its own thing? Okay, so this.
Yes and no. You'll see. Okay. It is connected to the show.
So is that connection valid then to like the whole universe? Like, yeah, it times out, but is it actually?
Yeah. So the 10-minute time limit is meant to be a thing.
Okay.
Well, like I'm just saying that's the only time it's like mentioned explicitly in the show. It's 10 minutes. But like like creators have like mentioned like out of the show 10-minute time limit.
Okay. And then continuing. So Grandpa Max is gonna go like investigate like where this meteor crashes, so we can kind of see what's going on and all that type of stuff. And then is this when they cut to Vilgax again? I'm pretty sure this is when they cut to
Vilgax. I believe so. So Vilgax is like in this pod. He's very clearly like damaged from the fight.
Yeah.
His legs are missing, like his arms burnt off. He's got like a respirator over him.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And he's in this like tube with like presumably like healing juices.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good shot. Like, and I remember you talked about this like when we were talking on the phone and all that type of stuff. Like, first episode in of like a kid show, it's pretty graphic. Like they're showing video games.
Yeah, pretty gruesome. This alien just like mutilated.
Yeah, so like and I was even mentioning, like,
and also very clearly like a Darth Vader inspiration.
Yeah, and also too, like I was even mentioning too, like they're showing deaths and explosions. Well, we think deaths, anyways. And then yeah, I think I mentioned I like this because he's gonna be in there, like, because obviously shows, as we mentioned before, like do like a big story where like the big villain's gonna come in and like beat the crap out of everybody and all that type of stuff. I actually like how they gave a reason that Vilgax isn't just gonna go there now and like just look for this Omnitrix and just like destroy the world.
Yeah, some things are like the main villain just like can go down and end it themselves, but they just like don't.
Yeah, like I think the comparison I gave with Danny Phantom, like Vlad's not in every episode. It kind of doesn't make sense that way, because why doesn't Vlad just like this? Because we know Vlad could just kick Danny's ass earlier. Danny's ass anyways, like early in the
like
episode.
Season 1 and 2, he can like kick Danny's ass, no problem.
So like
doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know why he just like doesn't, but I actually like Vilgax. Like they had to give a reason pretty much why he can't just go raise hell and all that type of stuff. Like
yeah, like the Marvel movies are pretty egregious for that. People made so many jokes about Thanos just sitting on his chair for 10 years and not doing anything.
Yeah.
And in one movie, he's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And then he doesn't do it himself for another 5 years.
Yeah, so it's like, I like that Vilgax had like a reason that he couldn't.
Yeah, he had a reason why he's not going down there and kicking Ben's ass.
I feel like, too, we're missing the biggest comparison. Well, actually, I feel like we should wait to talk about that until they actually talk about it themselves, type of thing. There's a big comparison I think we're going to make when it comes to like Max Owen versus Danny's parents Owen, but I feel like we should wait till they actually put it up in conversation to themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So I forget they do. You want to talk about the next alien that Ben turns into?
Yep. So Grandpa Max is up at the crash site, and he's like investigating the the shell the Omnitrix came in, and meanwhile Ben is still at the RV with Gwen, and he's like biting on the watch and like pressing buttons, like trying to figure out how it works.
Yeah.
Gwen pops up and surprises him. And I do like their banter here.
Yeah.
Where she's like laughing at him, getting surprised, and he's like, ha, 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 very funny. Like very, just comes off very like fun.
Yeah, this was fun.
Well, like when they're just constantly insulting each other, it's kind of annoying, but this is like a fun banter, I think.
Yeah, like fun cousins type of banter. Like, not even just cousins, by the way, like fun banter. Because you know what the weird thing is? We won't mention it too much here because it's a kid's show, but weirdly enough, when you banter with your family or like your friends, you're like friends with them. Like if you notice, if you're ever around with someone you don't really like all that much and stuff, you just don't banter with them at all. You don't even say anything to them really. It's all like, it's very...
Yeah.
So like that kind of show, in a weird way, it shows like your love for that, or like your likeness to that.
Yeah, they are family. They don't actually hate each other.
Yeah.
And like again, their fighting is fine. It's only like when it's like over the whole episode, it's annoying.
Yeah, I feel like
it was kind of annoying before this point, but like from this point on in the rest of the episode, it's like fine.
Yeah.
So I like how Gwen's like Grandpa Max told you not to mess with that thing. And he's like, yeah, so, and she's like, were you dropped on your head as a baby?
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, if I can figure out how this works, I can help people, and I don't have to just be me.
Yeah.
And I like that Ben has like self-esteem issues and like he wants to be a hero.
Yeah, it tied into like the early episode when he stands up to the bullies and all that type of stuff. Like it was a good tie-in type of thing.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
And I do like how after this Ben's like, come on, aren't you even a little bit curious how this works? And she's like, no, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Ben's like, are you sure we're related?
Yeah. Which is a good callback because even though I know there's like, because she gets like supernatural abilities like herself and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of like a cool callback. Like back then she had no interest in like any of that stuff type of thing. She's that, if you think about it, there's an Avatar. She was kind of the Sokka hero of the show type of thing. If you think about it, like,
just like against the main character, and it's like kind of like the voice of reason, kind of.
Yeah.
Or like the normal one in the group.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually Ben figures out how to turn on the Omnitrix again well, again, they don't know it's the Omnitrix. They're just calling it the Watch. And he's like flipping through. Yeah, and he explains like, okay, look, I press this button, the dial pops up, and then I get turned into an alien. Then he presses it, and he turns into our second alien, Wildmutt.
Okay.
I do like how they don't call him Wildmutt yet, but Gwen does like kind of unintentionally name him.
Yeah.
Where she's like, ew, someone put a flea collar on this mutt.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, the question I have for you, and I don't know if you can answer the question or not, are they actually called, like, other things than just, like, the aliens they say?
Yeah, they have, like, species names.
Okay.
Like, Ben just calls them, like, he has nicknames for them.
Yeah.
Like, you remember Gray Matter, right? Like,
yeah, I remember that one, yeah.
Like, his species name is Galvins, but, like, Ben called him Gray Matter.
Yeah.
And it is a funny thing, later on in the show, whenever he meets, like, an alien, he won't call them their species name, he'll call them, like whatever, like, he nicknamed them.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Like,
yeah.
I wonder if he started that trend, too, like, with everybody else, too, you know, like, everyone just starts calling them, like, the names Ben gave him and all that type of stuff, like...
Yeah, so, like, it is funny, like, later on, like, when he meets, like, a Galvin, he's like, oh, you're a Gray Matter, and someone else is like, the fuck's a Gray Matter?
I know, yeah, because I always thought he just did that as a kid, too. I forgot he did it, like, when he was, like, a teenager. I thought, like, eventually he just decided, like, you know, because he's a kid, he doesn't know how to say the other names. I didn't realize he always did that type of thing. I thought he just eventually...
Yeah, he kind of just, like, fell into the habit of it, so he still does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, it makes sense here, because he doesn't know anything about these aliens, so, like, he doesn't, you know...
Yeah.
So he's just coming up with names for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, Gwen is actually speaking for me in this because she's like, this alien's useless. He can't do anything.
Yeah.
I say that because out of the original 10 aliens Ben has, Wildmutt's probably my least favorite.
I really can't say because I haven't seen, like, the other aliens, really. I mean, I've obviously seen them, but you know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, like, once we get to, like, the season 1 review, I'll ask you, like, you know, what do you think? Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, he's not totally useless because, Gwen thinks he's useless because he doesn't have eyes and he can't see.
Yeah.
So Gwen is like, oh, he can't see. I'm going to, like, hit him with a stick.
Yeah.
But then we see, like, they look like gills. I don't know what you call them, but, like, the, like, lines on his neck allow Ben to, see, like, things. Like,
I don't think he really sees.
It's kind of like Daredevil. Like, he can see, like, an outline of things and he can, like, hear.
It's kind of like, seeing it's kind of like more like senses type of thing too.
Yeah, he has like super sense basically. Like he'd smell good, hear good.
Yeah.
So Gwen tries to hit him with a stick, but he like does a backflip onto the RV and she gets knocked over.
Yeah. Now, by the way, we should mention a callback. By the way, that Ben says, I forget if he says it as heat blast or he does mention. Obviously this is with retrospect because I know this. He mentions that when he turns into this alien, he feels like a different person, all that type of stuff. I feel like that was a Ghost Freak callback type of thing, if you remember.
Oh yeah, that's like foreshadowing, yeah.
Yeah.
Because oh yeah, right, yeah. When Ben and Gwen are talking, he's like, she asks him what it feels like to be an alien.
Yeah.
And Ben is like, it felt like I was me, but like also someone else.
Because
and, like, later on, when Ben talks about Ghost Freak, he says, like, I always felt weird as Ghost Freak.
Yeah. I say that, too.
Like, Ghost Freak was, like, an outlier even among the aliens.
I say that, too, just because, like, what he does... I mean, it could have just been Ben just, like, trying to figure shit out, but what he does here is, like, he doesn't instantly know what to do, but it does feel like he's a little bit of, like, Wildmutt, too. Like, there's a little bit of Wildmutt in him. Like, he kind of starts, like he instantly knows how to climb.
Like, he's able to just do a backflip, you know, like 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, or like,
you know, just like naturally.
Or jump from like tree to tree type of thing, you know, like.
Yeah, it feels like he he kind of like on like an instinctual level knows what to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, by the way, as wild, but he can't talk.
No, he can't. And then Ben just kind of jumps around and. I think he's kind of experimented what he can do with, like, Wildmutt, really, type of thing, like...
yeah, he goes back to the ground and, like, kicks dirt on Gwen, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then he, like, starts hopping around the woods.
And then, I believe this is when, one of the robots of, like, Vilgax...
Oh, yeah, I don't think they actually said that. So, Vilgax is, like, they found out that the Omnitrix landed on Earth.
Yeah.
and someone picked it up. So Vilgax sends a giant robot down to the crash site, and then he sends out two like smaller robots like from his shoulders.
Yep.
So like the big robot is like the big attack one, and then like the two smaller ones are like scouting. They're like trying to find the Omnitrix.
Yeah, and then the small Ben runs into one of the small robots, and they get into a fight. It's actually a pretty good fight too. Like Ben's doing a lot of dodging type of thing, and I think this is what we talked about the differences between like Ben not knowing how to do stuff versus Danny type of thing. Because Ben, I would say like is a bit more like, if I had to say like who can use their thing more on its first day type of thing, I would say Ben does it fairly well more than.
Ben definitely like has a better grasp of it than Danny did.
Yeah, and I think we said the reason this happens, is because it's summer vacation. Ben's 10 years old. He has more time to like actually do the training and all that type of stuff versus Danny, who's a teenager. That's probably like the worst time for.
Yeah, and like Ben's on summer vacation, so he doesn't have to worry about school and like keeping a secret from people because Max and Gwen already know.
Yeah, so Ben's able to kind of do some training and stuff. And yeah, Ben just like he takes off like one of like the legs of like the alien and just destroys it with its own leg, and like, I think does it like crash into a tree or something like that too, and like fall.
Yeah, it crashes like into the side of a cliff.
And then
Ben times out.
Yeah. The worst possible time too. I know this happens a lot, but like he's like in the middle of fighting the other robots, and he's like about to do the same thing, and then he times out.
Yeah, and he has to like jump off it. I like this because like before Ben timing out was just to show like he can time out, like he's not stuck as an alien.
Yeah.
This is the first time timing out is shown to be like, okay, this is like a weekness. Like he can time out like in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, I liked that. Yeah, and I like that like. Because we make the comparisons, like, where Ben times out. I like this better than, like, Danny just accidentally turning human, because it would be, like, it was, like, the worst when that happened sometimes. They overdid I feel like if it happened, like, once or something like that, or, like, twice, I wouldn't complain about it. I remember in season 1, like, the first few episodes, they did that, like, way too much type of thing when Danny would just turn human.
And it's not really established why that happened. Like, with Ben, it's very clearly, like, okay, the watch, like, you can be an alien for a certain amount of time, then you time out, and then the watch needs like a cooldown to turn into an alien.
Because if you remember with Danny, they never really mentioned like how Danny can really go. Like they mentioned that he can go ghost, but Sam says like he just thinks about it. So it's like, so that's kind of a plot point if you think about it. So did Danny just think I'm human all of a sudden, like in the middle of a fight? Like that's just weird. Like
Yeah.
So.
It's not really explained why that happened. So I think Ben does a better job at explaining like how the watch works.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, by the way, before we get to that, like, what do you think of the watch, like the design, like?
I really like the design of the watch. I think they really nailed it. The design of the aliens are really good. I like Heat Blast. He looks really good. Wild Mutt looks pretty good. We'll get to the alien later. The design of Vilgax looks awesome, and I didn't really mention that. The design of the robots looked really good. I like that this was Ben's like first fight as an alien. Like, you always notice they'll get like a minor like enemy to fight first. In a way, actually, I kind of liked it in Ben 10 better. How Ben's first fight was just kind of like a minor fight. Like Danny's first fight's like a big villain that he has and all that type of stuff. Like the main villain of like the episode and all that type of stuff.
So like giving Ben like the forest fire and then like these robots and then like the big robot later on. It's kind of like up. Like he's slowly like getting the hang of it.
I mean, we really can't. I guess it's tough to kind of really compare the two in this way, just because when we see the first episode of Danny Phantom, he's had his powers.
He's already been a ghost for a little while.
Yeah. So.
And then this is Ben's like literally his first day. He's only had the watch for a couple hours.
Yeah. I do like this is all going on in the same day, by the way, because Gwen mentions it too. Like, this is a weird day. I kind of forgot this all took place in one day, type of thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Crazy first day of summer.
Yeah.
Not even first day of summer. It's the last day of school.
I know. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure the first day.
Like he got out of school, and then like a couple hours later, he's turning into an alien.
I know. He can't even tell anyone about it. Like, too. Like, he has to go tell everyone, all his friends, they had like a lame summer. Like, all these people are gonna be like, "Oh, I went to Hershey Park. I went to Six Flags and all that type of stuff. And Ben could, if he really wanted.
Ben's like, oh, that's nice. I went to outer space.
I know. I turned into an. I caused a forest. I turned into an alien and caused a forest fire. Like.
Yeah. Did you fight a killer robot? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Although I will say, I felt like Ben hopping around the woods was weird. Like, it just felt like an excuse to have Ben, like, be in the woods for the fight scene.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked it better if the robots, like, attacked them at the RV.
Yeah.
And then Ben, like, went into the woods to, like, get the robot away from Gwen.
Yeah. That would have made more sense.
I think that would have been more natural than Ben just running off.
Yeah, kind of like the like kind of like how when the ghosts you could say this is a bit coincidental, but like when the lunch lady's like they are late, you could say it's a bit coincidental. She just happened to show up when Danny's just happened to have lunch type of thing. But at least like she's attacking like at the lunchroom. It would have been weird if she like attacked like while Danny was in like math class or something like that, and just happens to be going on. Like, how would Danny have like gone to the lunchroom type of thing, like if he was in math class? But I guess that wasn't the best example. I guess the best example I could think of is like when Zuko goes to attack. Like, at least he didn't just like at least Aang and Zuko didn't like randomly like run into each other. Like Zuko stood out there the whole time. He saw where the hiding place was because because the flare went off too, type of thing too. Like when they went to the fire.
He saw the flare and then he saw Aang running towards his health pool. Yeah.
So, that's probably
So I think about the robots were in the area, but Ben just happening to like be in the woods felt a little contrived. Like I said, I think it would have been better if he also would have showed he cared about Gwen. Like he's trying to get away from her so she's not hurt.
I think a better comparison.
And then, at the end of the fight scene, Gwen comes and like hits the robot with a shovel and like saves Ben.
I think the better comparison is like when they see Vlad, like it is kind of cool. Like there was like the high school reunion or the college reunion going on type of thing. Like so it just happened to be like Vlad and Danny basically met just because like the dads went to college and the parents.
Well, I mean, Vlad invited Jack intentionally to like harm him,
but like
he had a grudge.
Yeah, but that made more sense. In a sense, just because, like,
Oh, yeah, you're saying it makes more sense. I thought you were saying it made less sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying it makes more sense because, like, he didn't know, like, his son had ghost powers and all that type of stuff, so...
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, but at the end of the fight scene, Gwen shows up and hits the robot with a shovel a couple times.
Yeah. I like this, again, it showed that, like, they cared about each other type of thing, so...
Yeah, I like how Ben's like, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool.
Then they run off, the robot explodes. Grandpa Max comes back to the RV and he's reprimanding Ben for turning into an alien again.
Yeah,
because I think it makes sense for Grandpa Max to get mad about this because again they don't know anything about this watch. They don't know how it works. They don't know if like turning into an alien has like side effects.
Yeah, but I do kind of like how Ben does stick up for himself because he said that he was able to figure it out type of thing. So I like that Grandpa Max doesn't just be like, nope, he didn't do the typical other thing. Like, well, it doesn't matter. I told you couldn't do it. Like Grandpa Max, like he didn't like continue like get mad at him. He just kind of they were just kind of talking.
Ben explained himself and he calmed down.
Yeah,
and I like how Ben explaining it to Grandpa Max is also like an explanation for the audience.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like he explains like, okay, I hit the watch, the dial pops up, and then I get turned into 10 different aliens.
Yeah.
And that's our first indication, like, okay, there's 10 of them.
Yeah. So that was cool.
Anyway, because when it pops up, you can see, like, silhouettes of what the alien looks like.
Yeah. And, yeah, then this is, like, when they mentioned they're going to do some training. This is, like, the good comparison between Danny and Ben, just because, Danny couldn't really do this training just because his parents didn't even know he was Ghost. And I remember we mentioned this. Every time Danny was going to take time to, like, have like a weekend or something, a train or something, he couldn't do it because he would have to turn human to hide it from his parents and all that type of stuff. So,
Oh yeah, I love Grandpa Max. He's very supportive, but like he calls Ben out when he's wrong.
Yeah.
And he's just a good father figure for Ben and Gwen. He's also useful too, like in a fight.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, he was mad at Ben for disobeying his orders, but. They're like, okay, Ben, the watch is stuck to Ben. Like, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, as long as it's stuck to Ben, we might as well make sure, like, you get good at it.
Yeah. So he's like he said he's gonna offer like some obstacle courses and stuff, and then the park ranger.
And of course, that's a good setup for the rest of the show, showing like, okay, yeah, like from now on, Ben's gonna practice and get better.
Yeah, I liked that. Yeah, and then a park ranger radios in, and I like that he wasn't necessarily like radio in to like because they have the CO2 radio, whatever it is that like all the RVs and stuff have. Where like he's just a little.
Yeah, they weren't calling Max specifically. They were just like saying like, "Help! There's a giant robot attacking the campground."
And yeah, this is where Ben he turns into the. I didn't realize he turned into this alien this soon. I remember this alien once I saw it. Like, wow, I thought like he turned into a different alien. Forearms that we see. I didn't realize forearms didn't come up. Then debut with like the first episode because that's like a big alien that like Ben uses.
Yeah, that's like the fan favorite.
Yeah. So.
Forearms.
Yeah, he turns into Diamond Head. And I made this point, voice actor by... we forgot to look this up just because we ran out of time. If you want to look it up real quick and stuff, but... This is a weird fact that I remember that you didn't remember. I remember, I think this was when you got into Batman. And you got into like a cartoon show. And there's like an episode in the that's in there that just happened to be... there's like a superhero. I think you said his name was Beast. I believe you said that was his name.
Oh yeah.
He can like turn they can like mix animals together type of thing, and like what doesn't he become those animals that he mixes up or something like that? Like
no, he just mixes them up and he can like control them.
Okay. So yeah, I don't remember exactly everything about it, but I get the gist of it type of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember...
I was like, wow, I'm surprised you remember that show.
And then you're probably wondering, why am I putting this up? The voice actor that voices Diamond Head sounds like the voice actor that plays that character in the...
He's Doug Dimmadome.
Maybe that's why I've heard of him then.
Yeah, and he's also...
Is he Beast or no?
I'm looking that up. He's also the butler dude from Danny Phantom.
Okay.
Remember, like, the school psychiatrist? Like, she has, like, an assistant?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
That's even interesting. That's interesting, too.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was Doug Dimmadome. Is it weird? I've watched Danny Phantom and Fairly Odd Parents. I've seen way more of that, but the thing that came back from was Beast, a superhero I saw, like, what, once.
Once.
Yeah, one time.
Yeah, I'm still gonna find who his voice actor is.
Yeah. It's tough too because it's probably not just that one.
No, he's not voiced by him.
Oh, I don't know.
He's voiced Kevin Richardson.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
So they just sound similar, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm swear to God because I swear to God, Wannabe sounded like that too. So I guess they just.
Yeah, like once you said that, I was like, yeah, kinda.
Yeah. So.
It's funny because he does not sound like Doug Dimmadome or the assistant dude from Danny Phantom.
Not at all. So he must just throw his voice differently. Maybe.
Yeah, he's got really good voice range.
Yeah, maybe the guy that voices Wannabes could just throw his voice that way. Where I just thought it was this guy, so it was like, yeah, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't think we mentioned it earlier, but Heat Blast has the same voice actor as Vilgax.
I did mention that. Yeah, I did mention. That.
Okay, yeah, and Walmart obviously doesn't have a voice actor.
They have voice actors, but it's like not.
Oh yeah, like I think D. Bradley Baker.
Yeah, but.
He does a lot of like animal voices. By the way, D. Bradley Baker, he's a lot of aliens later on.
Okay.
So get used to hearing him.
But yeah, so we see this big robots attacking, and I really like the fight scene here that happens. Like, I think we talked about this. Ben is Diamond Head here, and Ben's not really fighting. He's mainly just dodging and all that type of stuff. But as he's doing this, he's like figuring it out. That what Diamond Head's powers are, like he realizes that he can like.
Oh, and the robot is like locks onto the Omnitrix symbol, so like he sees like, okay, this is the Omnitrix. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah. So it's not like he's just attacking.
So that's why it attacks Ben.
Yeah. And yeah, he realizes that he realizes that he's indestructible. So because I think Ben takes like a really bad fall that like would have. Well, I should say would have killed someone, but this is Ben 10 we're talking about, so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
10-year-old Ben probably could have survived being slammed into whatever the fuck.
But, like, the reason why it's supposed to not kill him, other than it's just Ben 10, is...
Yeah, he's made out of... Well, he's not made of diamond, but he's made of, like, a really rock hard substance.
Yeah, I think it like makes diamonds type of thing, so that's why it's called like Diamond Head.
Yeah, Ben calls him Diamond Head, but he's not like literally made of diamond.
Yeah.
It's just like hard.
And he's like able to like use these walks that he has on to like shapeshift into like other things. Like he makes like a really sharp sword with his hand.
Yeah, Ben like gets caught under some rubble, and Ben like turns his sword and his hand into a sword.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh cool, I can like shapeshift.
Really cool callback to.
And then,
there's a point where like, you know, Gwen's about to like get like the I think it's like its arm is about to fall onto Gwen, and Ben like saves her.
Like a giant tree gets knocked over and it's about to hit Gwen.
And yeah, Ben like.
And then Ben like runs up and he like turns like his back into a big spike and like cuts the tree in half.
But again, if Gwen would have totally survived that. This is Ben 10 we're talking about. She totally would have.
Yeah, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
She's got plot armor. But Ben's like even and Gwen's like even.
Yeah, so I like that.
So I like that. Like Ben saved her because Gwen saved him from the robot earlier.
And doesn't eventually, I forget exactly how he wins the fight. Doesn't he like eventually like use his like, he shapeshifts his own?
Yeah, the robot's like shooting lasers, and then Ben like turns his arms into a shield.
Okay.
And then he like turns the shield into like a ramp, so like it like loops back around, and the robot hits itself.
Yeah. So I do kind of like this, just because like Ben's like figuring out the watch as you're doing this, and I like that like yes he's getting his ass kicked, but he's not like kicking their ass. He's basically just like dodging and all that type of stuff. And
yeah, I think Diamond Head was a good choice for this fight because Ben still doesn't really know what he's doing, and Diamond Head's very durable.
Yeah.
So like Ben was getting hit a lot, but like he was able to withstand it, which I think is good for the first episode. Ben still doesn't have good grasp of everything.
Yeah.
So Ben picked a good like training wheels alien, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And then yeah.
And then,
this is kind of like
I like how Grandpa Max screams like, "All right, way to go, Ben, diamond-headed guy!" Like he almost says Ben and like around the other guy, around the other campers.
Yeah, because he still doesn't want to. He doesn't want everyone to know yet, really, and all that type of stuff. So that was kind of a good way.
And then Grandpa Max coined the name Diamond Head. Woohoo!
Yeah. And then the end of the episode.
Well, I like how Ben's like celebrating. He's like, "All right, woohoo!" and he's like jumping up and down.
Yeah. And then
like acting like a 10-year-old.
And then he's like,
"Well, my job here is done," and he just like runs off.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then, the end of the.
We cut back to Vilgax one last time, and he's like, "Whoever's keeping my Omnitrix from me, I'll mount their head on my wall."
Yeah.
You know, like just showing he's going to be the big threat.
And it's very much implied, like, he just thinks too, by the way, that like Ben, I think actually is keeping the Omnitrix from him. Like, I think he thinks like Ben's like doing this out of like to keep the Omnitrix from Vilgax. Like he doesn't even know like Ben's just like doing this just because like the town's being attacked and all that type of
Yeah, like Vilgax, like I told you this before we started recording, but when Vilgax finds out Ben is like a child, he's like pissed off. He's like, "What? A child has been keeping the Omnitrix from me?"
And like it's funny because he's really not even keeping the Omnitrix like from him. He's just like fighting just because.
Yeah, Ben doesn't even know about Vilgax, so Vilgax is just like assuming that whoever found the Omnitrix knows he wants it.
This is gonna be a weird comparison, but it's like weird and like. I mean, obviously you've seen the film Dumb and Dumber. Like all the villains and like CIA agents think that like they're like
they're like these like ultra badasses who like know what's going on, and they're just like dumb and dumber.
Yeah, so that's why like so I think that's why the comparison kind of sort of works here, just because like Ben doesn't even know what's going.
Or back to the Avatar thing. It's kind of like how Zuko thought the Avatar would be like this 100-year-old badass.
Yeah.
And not like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because we even mentioned this. A doesn't even know what's going on. He didn't even know about the war.
He doesn't even know about the war. Yeah.
He didn't even know about the war until like I think right before he saw Zuko. Really, if you think about it, like it was probably he probably only knew about the war for like probably 20 minutes, maybe a half hour.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like
yeah.
Maybe an hour actually, because I remember they go penguin sled and stuff. So it's probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I don't. It's not.
Well, I didn't know about the war until they were on the Fire Nation ship.
No, because remember Sokka mentions it.
Well, he mentioned it, but he was like, "What war?" And then he kind of ran off.
Okay, yeah, so,
And then Katara was like, "Oh, yeah, this ship's been here since the war first began." He's like, hold on, like, war.
So it's probably a half hour.
Like,
maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, I would say. Like, that's it. Like, that's all.
Yeah. Aang had not known about the war for a while. But anyway, back to Ben 10. So Vilgax is very clear. This episode does a good job, as the first episode, setting up the rest of the show. You know.
Yeah, and again, I like we mentioned before.
I think like we're talking about Avatar, Ben, and Danny are around the same time. I think Ben and Avatar do it the best. I think Danny is like a little bit worse at setting up the show.
Yeah, because we don't even meet like the main villain until like, and obviously too, because what was meant to be set up doesn't happen because of obvious reasons with Danny, which we'll get into when we review season.
Yeah, I think at the end of the first episode, Danny's like, I realized I'm going to use my powers for good.
Yeah.
But like that's like besides from the fact that he's going to be a superhero, there's not really a clear goal.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of a disservice that happened with Danny. They should have taken the Ben 10 approach and started had the first episode be when Danny got his powers. Just then again, I feel like Ben 10 doesn't. It's really weird though. They actually helped Ben 10 though in a way. Like I don't think Ben 10 stands out as much if they just did the same episode as Danny type of thing.
Yeah, I think it's good because like we're learning about the Watch as Ben is. Like we're like. When he figures something out, we figure something out. Yeah. Hey, Liam, buddy, I'm Skyping Owen right now. I'll talk to you later. Sorry. You're fine.
But anyhow, I feel like in a weird way, like I feel like if I hate to say this, Danny not doing that helped Ben 10. So I feel like we can critique Danny for doing that, but I feel like Ben 10 wouldn't have stood out as much if it didn't do that. If Danny just did that.
Yeah. Like Ben 10 shines out more. Like I said, I think Grandpa Max shines more because a lot of cartoons at the time had like the parents like not knowing about all this stuff.
I mean, like picture this: if Ben's first episode was this and Danny's first episode was what we wanted to be, we'd be sitting here right now and talking about. We'd probably be shitting on it, honestly, saying, "Oh, this is so Danny. They clearly did this to rip off Danny Phantom type of thing."
Yeah.
So I feel like while we're gonna rant about
especially because Danny came out first, like you said.
Yeah, while we're ranting about Danny. Not doing that now, and we probably will when we do the video. It's actually a benefit to Ben. It actually benefits this review right here, actually. So.
Yeah, it makes Ben shine more. Yeah. Then we cut back, final scene of the show, of the episode, not the show.
This was it? That was it? That was the end?
Yeah, this is the end. All this setup and nothing happened.
It got canceled because we screwed up and added around Christmas time. Shit.
Yeah, shouldn't have done that. But then Grandpa Max and Gwen it's the next morning, they're cleaning up the campground, they're getting ready to go hit the road again. And they're like, hey, where's Ben? I haven't seen him since breakfast. And then Ben comes in with the fourth alien we see, Accelerate.
Yeah.
And we only see him for like a minute, but we can clearly tell he's like super fast.
Yep.
This is something interesting. So like when the second episode happens, it's implied Ben's already ban all of his aliens.
Okay.
Like off screen, like he already has names for them and he knows how they work.
Okay.
So this is like the only episode where like Ben like doesn't know how his original 10 don't work.
Yep.
Like by episode 2, like he knows he's which makes sense. Like he would be like experimenting, like seeing like, okay, what does this guy do? What does this guy do? What does this guy do?
I could critique that, but then thinking about it, like it would probably get stale.
So I wouldn't say that's a critique. I think it's a positive. It makes sense. Like stuff's happening off screen, like
Yeah, and I feel like
too, the characters are doing stuff when the camera isn't on them.
Yeah, and I like that too, just because like I think a big critique we would have is like it would get really stale real fast if like Ben was like learning the new aliens like that just type of thing too. So
and don't get me wrong, like, we do get that. Like whenever he unlocks a new alien. He's like confused and like he's like trying to figure out how it works.
Yeah, that's true. So that's good because that was like.
So I'm just saying I like how Ben is like off screen, like taking the time to like figure out his powers.
Because that was kind of weird with Avatar. It did kind of seem like they didn't really talk about stuff they did like off screen all that much. If you think about it, like
yeah, like they're like things they should have talked about off screen that they like didn't.
Yeah, or like it actually would have benefited like. We talk about how the North Pole episode, we could have had more episodes there. The stuff that we actually saw, that could have just been stuff that they just said happened off screen type of thing. Like, I would have preferred that. Like,
and like, it's like, it also implies that like Ben is like doing stuff like he's not like every time he's on screen is like he's going on adventures in between episodes is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like Danny Phantom.
Like he's helping people, he's doing stuff. Yeah, like he's not just doing stuff when the episodes are happening.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Because Danny Phantom really wasn't that way either, if you think about it. Like,
yeah, well, I think it implied, like, Danny was also, like, fighting crime, like, in between episodes.
Yeah, I guess so. That's why like he got good like at his powers and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like but maybe that's the one thing Avatar didn't do. Now that you think about it, like that they weren't doing stuff.
Yeah, I don't think Avatar ever implied like they were doing stuff. I think in Avatar it was just like in between episodes they were just traveling.
Yeah, I think the only time it implied it was obviously after like the time jump after Aang's out of his like.
Yeah, then they were like doing stuff. Yeah, while Aang was in the coma. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ben transforms back into human, and he's like, "I think it's gonna be the best summer ever." Which, compare. Oh yeah, we didn't mention it earlier, but when the robot is attacking the campground, Ben's like, "I think I can help them," and then Gwen's like, "What are you gonna do about it, Tennyson?"
Oh yeah.
So obviously, a call back to what the bully said earlier.
Yeah.
But I thought that was weird because Gwen's name is also Tennyson.
Yeah. So
it's like, I'd be like, what are you going to do about it, Finch? When like, well, my last name isn't Finch, but like, I'm part Finch. So it's just weird for
it'd be like,
me to say that.
It'd be like my younger sister saying that to me. Like
Yeah.
Or even
Finch.
Even though her last name's not Finch anymore, it'd be like my older sister saying that to me. Like
Yeah.
So
just, good callback, but weird thing. And I remember that because Ben went back to his school to hang up his bullies by the underwear.
Yeah. So.
And I think that's a good comparison to Danny as well. Danny, when he got his powers, was kind of picking on his bully as well.
Yeah, and I actually kind of I guess you can't really do that with Ben, but I liked it in Danny, where that was like kind of like one of the reasons. Not just a running gag. They actually use it as part of the story of like what's Danny going to use these powers for. He's just basically using it just to get back at his enemies.
Ben kind of has that a bit too, where Ben like is like learning he shouldn't use his powers for his own gain.
Yeah, I think
they're both very clearly inspired by Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like Spider-Man's whole with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. I do remember Danny was talked about a lot, like even in the first season and all that type of stuff. I think why it's mentioned right away because Danny's also older, so he should know better than like Ben does and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Ben's still 10. Danny's like,
but I just like how they both kind of use their powers for fun as well. Like they're not like strictly business. Like they are like having fun with their powers.
Yeah, like Aang too. Aang also too does that too. Like
Aang very much like tries to have fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, episode ends. Oh, and by the way, we should bring it up now. The show is called Ben 10, but they almost never call him Ben 10.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind that too much because sometimes it's a bit too much when they say like they have to fit in the name of the episode somehow type of thing.
Well, not even in just an episode, just like in general. Yeah. But like it's weird. So because like sometimes they will act like people call him Ben 10, but they don't.
Yeah, it's really odd, yeah.
Like later on, Kevin's like, I got all your powers plus my own. I'm Kevin 11. Get it? Because like he's Ben plus 1, so he calls himself Kevin 11. But he never calls himself Ben 10. Or a group calls himself the negative 10.
Yeah.
Like Ben 10, the negative 10. But he never calls himself Ben 10.
Yeah, because Danny Phantom did like
people call him Danny Phantom. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that becomes a running gag actually. If you remember, like his original like publicist name.
People were calling him Invisible, and then he's like, "No, I'm Danny Phantom."
Yeah, and then even though they never say he's, because Aang's name's not Aang, but they mention like he's the Avatar, but he's also the last Airbender.
Yeah, people call him the Avatar more than they call him Aang.
Yeah.
I remember Zuko didn't even call him Aang until like he joined the group.
I know, yeah. And then
I remember there's like a joke that a lot of people are like, "So does Zuko even know their names?"
Yeah.
Because it'd be really funny if like we'll talk more about this in Avatar, but it'd be funny if like Zuko joins the group and he doesn't know anyone's names. And he's like really awkwardly trying not to like say anything.
Yeah. Was that a joke they made in the play too, when they did the play episode, or no? Because
I don't think so.
I mean, you can only get so much in there, but that was a missed opportunity right there. They didn't do that if you think about it. Like,
yeah,
but yeah.
Well, in Ben 10, it is weird. Like some of the villains will like learn his name's Ben, and I'm like, how'd you even know who he is?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, but yeah. Overall, this episode is really good. Really does a good job setting up the plot. Art style is good. The action scenes are good. The design of the aliens look really good. The characters,
Art style's good. Good characters.
Yeah.
Sets up, does everything it needs to as the first episode.
Huh?
I said, does everything it needs to as the first
Yeah.
episode. I think our biggest complaints were the second fight scene with the robots.
Yeah.
Felt a little random. Gwen and Ben bickering at the beginning was kind of like just annoying. But like,
Yeah.
you know, by the middle of the episode, it was fine.
And I mean,
Grandpa Max didn't get too much attention, but again, I think that's fine. It focused more on Ben and the Omnitrix.
Yeah. And I'd say like showing the theme song, just because like it kind of it doesn't necessarily give it away.
Just say that for the second episode. I agree.
Just because like a lot, like the big scene where we see Ben turn into Heat Blast was kind of given away, like doing the, doing the intro and stuff.
Like the intro shows you all of his aliens.
Yeah, so I would have like cut the intro.
And I think this episode, it showed us 4 aliens, 4 out of 10. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and the biggest positive I have is I like the fact that it gives a reason why the villain also too isn't just going down there right now and just gonna back
Yeah. Elgax is like the looming threat. And I love the road trip. Like I think I said before, I love road trip movies.
Yeah.
So I love like Ben 10, like going to different states and like having different settings.
Yeah, it's really good.
And like I love the later shows too, but it does suck a little bit that he's always in like one town for the most part. Like he goes other places, but like he's like the main setting is one town.
Yeah.
So it was interesting having the main, like the RV is like the only main setting they have.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, just like the aliens, I like how Ben's learning it, and I like, when they describe it, it's not just like, just for the sake of doing it. There's like reasons for it and stuff like that. And the relationship between
the campground being the main setting is fine. Like, it's the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, not the most interesting place, but I think it's fine for the first episode.
Yeah.
Like I said, later episodes do a better job, like having different environments for the episodes.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys.
I give it a B+.
I will give it the same.
Yeah.
Now that we talked about it more, I feel like a B+ is very fitting type of thing.
Out of the 4 aliens we saw, Heat Blast, Wildmutt, Diamond Head, and Accelerate, which one would you say is your favorite?
I was really
I
excited.
think mine's Diamond Head.
Yeah, I was expecting to say Heat Blast, but I think Diamond Head was my favorite. Remember, because I forgot
Heat
about...
Blast is like the poster boy. I'm kind of surprised. But yeah, I think I like Diamond Head more.
Yeah. Then I would say probably Heat Blast. Then I would say... No, it probably will change, but I'm going to say Wild Mutt and then Accelerate, just because you didn't see Accelerate until...
That's fair. We only saw Accelerate for like a minute.
Yeah.
My list is probably... Diamond Head, Heat Blast, Accelerate, Wild Mutt.
Yeah. Like, again, once I see Accelerate more, my list would probably, like, change, obviously. So...
Yeah.
It's not even...
And I'll be interested to see later episodes, because I haven't seen some of these episodes in a really long time. So, it'll be like a refresher for me.
I feel like that's one thing we should do every video. Like, rank the aliens that he turns into, like, in that episode type of thing.
Yeah. Sure, I'm cool with that.
Unless there's like obviously if there's an episode where we've done it so often, but I'm just saying, like, we don't have to do it every time, but it would make the Ben 10, I think, videos stand out more.
Well, yeah, we can do that, because, like, some episodes, like, he turns into Diamond Head, but he doesn't really do anything. So that episode we can be like, oh yeah, he turned into Diamond Head, but, he didn't really do anything, so that kind of sucks.
Yeah, so... really good episode, really great episode here. I think it does a great job of setting up the plot. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's the end of this video. And yeah, anything you want to plug or promote before we end this off?
No.
Yeah, I know the one thing you probably want to plug, you just haven't done anything with it, so there's no sense in plugging it. So, you can go check out my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel. And review it. Check out all my wrestling reviews. Question for you, by the way. Would you want to bring this series also to the Wrestling Fortune 44 channel? Because there's wrestling videos. I'm assuming, I don't know if you heard of it. Did you hear that there's a wrestling show that's like what's it called? I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but I'll just look it up off air. But it's a wrestling show, but it's like it's a very plot heavy and all that type of stuff. So it'd be kind of interesting to watch that. So
yeah, I'm cool with that. Sure.
Yeah, so
we'll probably talked a bit about like me wanting to like watch more wrestling stuff.
Yeah, so we'll probably bring this series like there. And then there's other wrestling content you can check out there. FTW Productions, which used to be the CM Brothers channel, you can check out the stuff that we have going on there. You can check out the 400th video there where we completely shat on and completely ruined I shouldn't say ruined, they ruined it themselves, but we could just completely tore a new asshole into the Death Note movie. I actually forgot the name of it for a second of it because it was so bad. And then for this channel you can check out other Owen and AJ Talk videos. The next one is probably either going to be a Danny Phantom review or it's going to be reviewing Red vs. Blue, the Blood Gulch Chronicle. It depends on what time is and all that type of stuff. But
yeah,
that's pretty much it, guys. And since it's being recorded in the past, we will talk to you guys in the future.